All right, a little extra juiced up for this one. Conference title weekend in the college football world, recording on Thursday night here from the folks at Beef Up Front. Ryan Coyle joined alongside Joe Kmetz. Conference title weekend kicks off, whatever you want to say, tomorrow night. I believe we got three games tomorrow night: the CUSA, the Mountain West, and the American, and then we got six games on Saturday as well. A few of these winning in type spots. You got the Big 12 on Saturday between Iowa State and Arizona State. Winner of that goes. Clemson, SMU in the ACC. The winner of that goes. The loser, if SMU's a loser, I'd say at this point most likely out, and Alabama's going in ahead of them. And then for the G5 spot, you look at the UNLV and Boise State game. The winner of that goes. Boise State wins. They probably get a bye as well. So people are trying, I think, downplay the meaning of conference title weekend now with the expanded playoff, but I still think it means a lot. We'll talk about that a little bit more, but welcome back, Joe. Hard to believe we are here. It's like 50-mile-per-hour winds outside my house right now. I remember when we first started recording back in August, it was about a 95-degree day. So a lot has changed since now and then. It's been a really good, really fun season, but welcome back. How are we? And ready for some conference title games.
Yeah, Coyle. I mean, it's always a bittersweet time, conference championship weekend. We get to see 10 awesome games, but it does signify that we're at the end of the season. But I mean, Coyle, you said it. I've been shoveling snow. We got 3 inches of snow last night up here. It's
Really?
been crazy windy, down. I picked up Chinese food for dinner. I'm coming home. There's trees down. All the traffic lights are out. It's crazy. And, like you said, we're sitting here breaking down SMU, Nevada, week 0, and Delaware State, Hawaii. We're sweating when we're going outside. Now it's freezing cold, crazy windy. But it just shows like how long, all the hard work that these teams are putting in to be here. I was listening to a podcast and it was, you're talking about like some people are trying to downplay these conference titles. It's like, these are all very important games. Like, I get it. If Penn State loses, they're not out of the playoff. You know what I mean? They're in. Like, I understand that. But one of the kind of downsides of this expanded playoff is people are trying to make like these games in particular not make it seem like they're as important when these are still massive games. You want to win these games, put yourself in a better position. Like, you were saying, SMU, if they lose, it's going to be a big debate of, is SMU going to get in or is Bama going to get in? I hope they put SMU. I think they'll put Bama in. Hope I'm wrong, because I don't think SMU should be punished for making it as the regular season champ and then having to play in the conference title game in the ACC. But that being said, I mean, these are awesome games. It's going to be a great weekend of college football. And I can't believe we're here at the end of the regular season.
Yeah, I mean, everything's been building up all year about this 12-team playoff, and here we are 2 weeks from tomorrow. That'll be kicking off. So got a weekend left, Friday and Saturday, to enjoy some college. Then you got Army-Navy next week. We'll be shifting into, we just talked about it, talking some more college hoops now. Some teams are about 10 games into the season. That episode next week is one of my favorite episodes because you'll have like a 9-1 Missouri or something, and then they'll finish the year like 11-24 or something like that. And it's funny to always look at how teams start out and kind of the non-conference schedules they play, and then what happens once they get into conference play. But I already looked at the schedule for next weekend. Got some really good ones coming up. Conference play has started just because the expanding conferences now, Joe. You have to play these conference games earlier unless non-conference. So looking forward to getting into that. But a big weekend ahead of us in the college game. Recap last week. We went a little overboard last week, just trying to break down every game that mattered. I had one of my best weeks of the season, 21-14. 8-3 straight up, 6-5 against the spread, 6-5 on my totals, 1-0 on my dog of Syracuse. I said they were going to be able to score with Miami. They beat them outright. And then 0-1 on my lock of Nebraska, Iowa over 39.5. Iowa was the best team to the over all year. And I said, I know once I take one of their overs, the under will hit, and it hit with ease. So loss there. You go 16-19, 6-5 straight up, 4-5 against the spread, 6-5 on the total though. 0-1 on your dog of USC. You had them winning outright, too. They get beat up there at the end by Notre Dame. And then 0-1 on your lock of Ohio State with shocking upset there.
Terrible.
But, all right, we go to Friday where we have 3 games. And then, as we said, we have 6 on Saturday. a few of these games, obviously it means a lot to the school, to the program. I don't think we were coming into the year thinking the CUSA winner or the MAC winner was going to be going to the playoff. But so this is a huge weekend for some of these schools, and it'll be cool to see them all on the national stage, as they are not teams that get watched that much. But we start on Friday in the Conference USA title game. Western Kentucky at 8-4. They'll be playing Jacksonville State, who's 8-4 as well. 7:00 kick on CBS Sports Network. Jacksonville State 4-point favorite, over under 58.5. Western Kentucky won this game. These two teams just played last week on a last-second field goal.
Yeah, I'm going to go with Jacksonville State 28-21 because of that reason, Coyle. Shout out Western Kentucky, cashed the preseason win total over 7. One of the 30-something plays that I gave out over the summer on Twitter. That was one of my biggest ones. That was a 4-unit play. Shout out to the Hilltoppers. But I think Rich Rod and Jacksonville State are going to win this game at home. Just a testament to a program moving in the right direction. 2 years ago, moved up from FCS. Now you're in the conference championship game of the CUSA in the FBS. It's a real testament to what Rich Rod is doing down at Jacksonville State. And I think,
he might be on the move again.
What?
He might be on the move back to West Virginia.
I mean, I think that'd be great for West Virginia. I mean, little throwback to the 07 season. If they don't lose to Pitt, West Virginia's in the 07 title game. The 07, we could do a whole month of podcasts on that crazy season. But I'm going to go with the Gamecocks here at home in a really, really solid football game. Could potentially be, maybe not, obviously not the most important, but maybe one of the best games of Friday night.
My little note on this one, I tried to mix in a little bit of information for these smaller school conferences. My note for this one, both Jacksonville State and Western Kentucky, 8-4 straight up and 8-4 against the spread. So if you're betting on either of these squads this year, you were probably making some pretty good money. A major thing to watch in this one, the quarterback spot for Jacksonville State. I had a win total, I think it was over 7 or 7.5 on them. It might have even been 8. I might have pushed. I was with you, or I put in a bunch as well, but I watched 2 or 3 of their games in its entirety this year. And their quarterback, Tyler Huff, is a really fun player. He had 2,000 passing yards this year and 11 passing touchdowns, and also ran for 1,100 yards and 13 rushing touchdowns. But he is questionable. It sounds like he's going to be a game-time decision with an ankle injury. He was forced to leave the game last week. I believe their ticket was already punched last week, so when he had the injury, I think it was more so, let's rest up. Next week matters more because we're already in the title game. So I wouldn't read too much into that. He's a tough kid. I think he's going to play, but I would hold off on betting this game until we hear more. You might even have to wait up till snap to see if he goes out there, and then literally just bet it at kickoff. But if I had to bet on it right now, I would say that Huff plays, and they play a really fun style to watch. This is perfect for them because they're the first game of the night. You're probably going to watch this and maybe just watch the first half before you turn into the American or the Mountain West. But they play a really fun style. They go up and down the field, snap the ball every 12 seconds. Really like their style of play, and I think it would be an exciting watch if Rich Rod does go back to a power conference school with the type of offense that he's been running these past couple of years. But I'm going to take Jacksonville State to win. With the uncertainty of Huff, though, I'll kind of thread the needle here with Western Kentucky to cover. These two teams, as we said, played really close last week. But I think this is a fun, high-scoring game. I'll go Jacksonville State 34, Western Kentucky 31. Western Kentucky +4 and over 58.5 there. All right, we go to the American now, Joe. 9-3 Tulane, coming off a loss where they were a 2-touchdown favorite against Memphis. They'll travel to Army to play 10-1 Army, as we know, Army Navy next week as well, which will be Army's 12th game. 8:00 kick on ABC. Tulane 6-point favorite, over under 47.5. Joe, you've been saying all week you think Army can pull off the upset. Are you going to pick them here on the show as well?
I am. I'm going to go Army 18, Tulane 14. I'm going Army +6. Love +6 there, and I love the under in this game. I do think this is going to be a very low-scoring game. Now, don't get me wrong. I could see Tulane kind of cruising in this game, but I'm just going to go with Army winning a low-score, gritty game, kind of running, more old-school option rather than, they've been airing it out a little bit more this year. I just think, we've been talking about it with the college football playoff. Tulane coming from New Orleans, going all the way up to West Point, New York. like I said, here we got 3 inches of snow. I know they got snow up there.
Mm-hmm.
It's cold. Their head coach, John Summerall, was a name for the UNC job. So, there could be some potential, maybe he's looking elsewhere. Some of these Tulane players, I'm sure, are already getting, contacted to go hop into the transfer portal. So I think this is more so, I think Tulane is the better team talent wise, but I think a lot of outside noise. And, you're coming off a massive loss in prime time on Thanksgiving against a Memphis team that had no shot at making it to the conference title game. So I just think, it's weird to say that it's going to be tough to get up for your conference title game, but getting knocked out of the playoff is kind of a big factor. And I wonder how they're going to respond. I think Army's going to win a tough, low scoring game here. 18-14. Like I said, love the under in this game.
Yeah, I like your point there about the potential distractions with Summerall. I saw the same thing. We'll talk about Marshall a little bit later too. But their coach apparently is the lead candidate for the Southern Miss job, and when those type of things are coming out, you got to wonder like how focused are they really on this game. But one of my main point on this one, and the reason why I love Tulane in this spot, Tulane head coach John Summerall, as we touched on, has seen the option 3 times: 2022 Army, 2023 Army, and 2024 Navy. His defenses have given up a combined 9 points in those games. They just beat Navy 35 weeks ago against the triple option. I love Tulane in this spot. John Summerall has the track record of being able to stop this offense. I like Tulane to win. I also like it to be a low-scoring game, and I like Army's team total under of 19.5 as well. I'm going to go Tulane 31, Army 10, so Tulane minus the 6 and under 47.5 there. All right, we go to the last game on Friday night in the Mountain West, the biggest one of Friday night for sure. This is a play-in game for the playoffs. Winner goes. If Boise State wins, they most likely get a bye. If UNLV wins, they're in, and they're probably the 12th seed. But you have 10-2 UNLV going to 11-1 Boise State. I think that's a big situation in this game as well, that this is on the blue turf. Boise State sitting there at 11-1, 8 o'clock kick on Fox. Boise State 3.5-point favorite, over under 58.5. Joe, does Ashton Genty go to the college football playoff unlike Travis Hunter?
I think so. I think Genty will get it done. By the way, this is the only Fox game for the conference titles, right?
I think so.
I hope we're getting Gus Johnson for a Boise State game. I think that'd be pretty sick. Just hearing him call some Ashton Genty plays, because he's going to have one explosive run. I'm going Boise 28, UNLV 24. So I'll take Boise minus the 3.5, and I'm going to take the under 58.5. I think it's a pretty high number for this game. But I just think the biggest difference here is this game's at Boise. Neutral site, who knows what happens. But Boise already went on the road and beat UNLV at their place. And that was such a big game for UNLV that there were some high schools in the area that were moving games to either Thursday or Saturday so their kids could go to that game. And I think this is going to be an awesome atmosphere in Boise. Biggest game of the season. Boise, you win. You're not only in, I think you're getting a bye. Because, we'll talk about the Big 12 title game next, but, UNLV being a ranked team is huge for Boise, making a case for that bye. And potentially, who knows, Boise could get the 3 seed if, Clemson were to upset SMU. You could have Boise State as the number 3 seeded team in the college football playoff, which would be insane. But I just think this is a spot where Boise State being at home is going to be all the difference. UNLV, hell of a season. Barry Odom, another coach that has a program going in the right direction. And I think UNLV in the future, especially in the NIL era, you're in Vegas. I know you can't gamble as a college player, but there's definitely some NIL money sitting around UNLV. And I think that's a program that is definitely on the rise.
Not for Matthew Sluka, though.
Fuck that guy. I'm so happy. A small part of me, I'm not going to go on a crazy tangent. Like, if UNLV wins, that would be such like a fuck you to him.
Yeah.
Like, you left to go to the portal. You thought this team was going to suck without you. They did just fine. And now they might, they have a chance to go to the playoffs. That's awesome for UNLV as well.
Yeah, it slipped my mind. It's not a huge bet, but I remember when he left the program, I was like, I think this is something that the team rallies around. I bet on them to make the playoff at 12-1. So
Really?
I'm essentially holding a plus 1,200 money line ticket in this game. So I'm all rebelled up. Not a big, wasn't a big wager, but a little change on it. It would probably pay for a couple bar tabs. So I'm hoping UNLV wins this one. Boise State, though, won the first matchup 29-24, and you can say they held Ashton Jeanty to 128 yards and 1 touchdown. But he had to use 33 carries to get that. That's like a player putting up 30 points, but he needs 25 shots to get there. This was his worst game, most likely, of the season when you look at everything considered. He only had 3.8 yards per carry in this one. And obviously, limiting Jeanty is the key to success when it comes to beating Boise State if you want to beat them. But if you want to look at a larger sample size, and you might just say, okay, Jeanty had one down game. UNLV has the 10th best rushing defense in the entire country. They hold their opponents to 101.1 yards per game on the ground. So they have a really stellar run defense. They have the recipe for the upset here, but I think there's a spot where Jeanty just won't be denied. He's shown that ability, and it's kind of like to relate it to the Eagles and Saquon. You might be able to bottle him up and keep him to 3-4 yards of carry early, but it's a matter of time before he's going to bust off one of those 50 to 60-yard runs and really gash the defense. So I think we see that in this game as well. UNLV kind of keeps him intact, but third, fourth quarter, Ashton Jeanty has a big run to kind of separate this one. And a Heisman caliber season that he's had, he goes to the playoff. And while Travis Hunter might win the Heisman, I think Jeanty's season, if he takes his team to the playoff and wins a playoff game, will be remembered more at the end of the day. I'll go Boise State to win and to cover 27-23. Boise State minus 3.5, under 58.5. All right, we go to Saturday now. The Big 12 title game, we'll start it there at noon. Iowa State 10-2 versus Arizona State, also 10-2. This one down at the Cowboy Stadium in Arlington. Noon kick on ABC. Arizona State 2.5-point favorite, over under 50.5. Joe, will McClay's Cyclones be going to the dance?
Unfortunately for McClay, I really I'm going to root hard for whichever one of these two teams, is in the playoff. But I think Arizona State is going to get this one done 31-17. I think this is going to be a little low scoring. I'm kind of liking the unders in a lot of these games so far. But, I mean, when you have this much on the line, it is kind of you really got to play smart, no real margin for error. I'm going to go Arizona State minus 2.5 here. But Arizona State, I kind of said this a couple weeks ago, they're a team with Kenny Dillingham that believes. They're playing with I don't like team when you say team of destiny, it's like they're going to win a national title. I'm not saying that, but they do have team of destiny vibes. Just to make the playoff at Arizona State would be huge.
Projected to finish, are they voted to finish last in the Big 12?
Yeah, I mean, no one thought they were going to be here. Even Iowa State wasn't.
I think Iowa State's win total was 7.5.
Yeah, it was 7.5. Shout out McClay. I cashed out with him, but I don't even Iowa State wasn't that high up. I mean, Iowa State hasn't won a conference title since I think 1907. I could be wrong. It's something insane like that. It's the early 1900s. But this is a team with Kenny Dillingham, an alum. He's from that area. He is Arizona State football. He went to Arizona State. He just has the entire community, all those guys rallying around him. It just feels like such a momentum and vibes type of win. And I think that is what's going to carry Arizona State to the playoff. One of the coolest stories in college football this season. I would love to see Kenny Dillingham get a shot with his guys in the playoff because, potentially if they have to go to Penn State or Notre Dame, I think Ohio State losing is definitely a little bit more fortunate for them, going forward. But I would love to see Arizona State get in. I think they're going to win this game closer than my final score indicates. So, I think it might be a late Arizona State drive to kind of put it away and go up 14 and effectively, clinch their playoff spot.
Yeah, shout out to the Sun Devils. If you bet on them this year, they were the best ATS team in the country. They went 10-2 against the spread this year. I don't think anything changes in this one. I like them to win and cover in this game as well. They have a very simple formula, I think, in place. Feed Cam Scatterbo the ball and move the ball down the field. Matriculated down the field. Not a very explosive team through the air, but they are able to connect on some plays in the passing game. But this is, without a doubt, a run-first team. I really like the under in this one. I put out a video, I think it was either yesterday or this morning, but the under of 50.5 could be one of the best plays of the weekend. So with that being said, this game's probably going to be played in the 70s. But when you look at a simple thing, time of possession, Iowa State 10th in the country, Arizona State 12th. So two teams that really like to work the clock, have 9-10 play drives. They're not teams that are looking to strike quick. Both teams do a really good job of kind of just moving the ball down the field at their pace. And when you're a run-first team like Arizona State and you're playing an Iowa State team that is ranked in the 90s in rush defense, I think that lines up really well for Arizona State. It's just, will there be enough possessions to really make this game a blowout? I think both teams really try to limit each other's chances with the ball, just like they've done all year. Cam Scatterbo has rushed over 100 yards in 6 different games this year. I think he makes it his 7th in this one. And the Arizona State Sun Devils win the Big 12 and go to the playoff. One of the stories of the year, I think, right behind Indiana for sure. I'll go Arizona State 24, Iowa State 21, ASU -2.5 and under 50.5. All right, quick hitter here, Joe. MAC title game, Ohio at 9-3 versus Miami of Ohio, 8-4. Noon kick on ESPN. This one up at Ford Field in Detroit. Miami, 2.5-point favorite. Over under is 44.5. Joe, Battle of Ohio here. Who goes or who wins the MAC? I was going to say who goes to the playoff, but who wins the MAC in the spot?
I would love to see a MAC team get out of the playoff. I'm going to go Ohio 26, Miami 21. I'm going to take Ohio +2.5, under 44, or excuse me, over 44.5. I apologize. I'm going with the over in this game. I don't know a thing about these two teams. I'm actually kind of mad at myself with the lack of matching that I've watched this season. But I'm going to go with the Bobcats here. Yeah, no rhyme or reason. I kind of just flipped the coin. No rhyme or reason here.
Difference in this one for me, the Red Hawks defense. They've held their opponents to 21 or less in 7 of their MAC games and only allowed 15 points per game in MAC play. These two teams face off in the regular season, and Miami won that one 30-20. Red Hawks forced 2 turnovers in that game as well. Very experienced Miami of Ohio team. They won the title last year. I like them to go back-to-back. I'll go Miami of Ohio 24, Ohio 20. Miami of Ohio -2.5, under 44.5, just hitting there. All right, big one here, Joe. SEC title game. Georgia 10-2 versus Texas 11-1. 4:00 kick on ABC. Texas 2.5-point favorite. Over under 48.5. I think these are the two teams that everyone kind of looked at as the best in the SEC for most of the year. Despite some of the on-field results, I feel like in everyone's mind, it was kind of Georgia and Texas 1 and 2 there. For the majority of the season, Georgia blew out Texas by 2 scores in their one and only matchup earlier this season. Who do you like in the SEC title game, and you think Texas gets revenge?
I don't. I have Georgia winning this game 28-24. I'll take the Dogs +2.5. I'll take the over in this game. I think, kind of like I was saying with Boise, I know this technically isn't a home game. It's in Atlanta, but it might as well be a home game for Georgia. I mean, they went on the road and flattened Texas earlier this year. And I mean, Texas, outside of Georgia, I don't think they played any team in the SEC that finished with 9 or more wins, which kind of goes to show you, how good really is Texas. I think the fact that they're getting 2.5 is crazy. I think, as up and down as Carson Beck has been, I mean, Quinn Ewers also right now, I'm not exactly thrilled with. I never thought I'd say I'm going to go with Carson Beck here as like the quarterback I trust more, but I think that's the case. And I mean, dude, I don't like him either. Like I
haven't liked him since last year. I said right away when I first saw what his face looked like, I was like, this is not a national championship winning quarterback.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to pile on the kid, but not that I'm the most attractive man on the planet Earth.
I was waiting for you to say that.
Yeah, I mean, it's true though, but I am going to go with the Dogs +2.5. I'll take them outright. Yeah, I can't really keep talking after that one, Coyle.
It wasn't an insult. I just know you. I just knew you were going to say something up that alley. As long as it's not down the slippery slope, Joe.
Never.
All right. Yeah, this is the one I think will probably, when we get the ratings and the viewing numbers come out, this is going to be the one that tops it all, I think. The one everybody has their eyes on. The eye-popping number in this one is just Georgia flat out being an underdog. Kirby's been an underdog twice, I think, in the past couple years, and he's won both those games outright. And he was an underdog in that game at Texas just a month and a half ago or so, and they beat Texas in Austin 30-15, and they pretty much controlled that game. When you think back to that game, though, think about how good Georgia's defense looked. They looked like they were pissed off and really playing for something in that one. Are they able to get up and have that same motivation for this game? They flew around all night in that one. They forced Texas into 4 turnovers, but Carson Beck, you touched on it, didn't play great himself in that one. And the Georgia offense had 3 turnovers too, but still found a way to win by double digits. So you got to think, if Carson Beck plays just average football in this one and can take care of the ball, and that's a big ask for him because he's turned it over a lot this year, I think Georgia should win this game again. And while the turnovers played a huge role in Texas losing, they've really struggled on third down as well. Texas only went 2 of 15 on third down in that game. Texas was pretty good on third down for most of the year. They ranked 28th in the country. Georgia's defense on third down, 23rd. So I think that's something major to watch here. It's pretty simple, but turnovers in third down, I think, is where we could decide this one. And, simple kind of things that you can point to in a football game, Joe, like this, is what decides a game between 2 really good teams that I could see both these teams potentially winning the national championship. So keep an eye on the turnovers and Texas's third down offense against Georgia's third down defense. And also what quarterback is able to kind of step up and lead a late drive. I think that is something that this game is going to come down to as well. But with that being said, I'm not that confident in either quarterback right now. I really like the under in this one. I think this is a defensive slugfest. I'm going to go with Kirby Smart, though, as an underdog, going against Sark on the other side, and Georgia to win the SEC after everything that happened this year. They still find a way to hoist a trophy. Georgia 24, Texas 17, Georgia plus 2.5, under 48.5. We'll talk about, too, remind me, Joe, once we get to Penn State, Oregon, based off our predictions, what we think the seeding will be at the top there and who will be the number 1 team going in. 7:30 on ESPN. You got your Sun Belt title. Marshall 9-3 versus Louisiana 7-2. Louisiana a 5.5 point favorite, over under 56.5. Any chance Marshall pulls off the upset in this one?
No, Coyle. I am going to go with the Raging Cajuns here at home, 30-23. I'm going to go under 56.5. I'm going to go with the Cajuns minus 5.5. And Coyle, you kind of alluded to it earlier. Marshall's head coach, I saw about 30 minutes before we started recording, is looking like he's going to take the Southern Miss job, but Marshall didn't offer an extension to him.
Yeah, I think
like Marshall was kind of like, okay, do your thing. This man has potential to lead you to a Sun Belt title. This is the same coach who beat Notre Dame a couple of years ago in South Bend, but I guess every G5 team does that, so what the hell do I know? But I think Marshall is going to, lose this game on the road. It's tough, for those players kind of seeing their coach leave. But not even I guarantee you, if you offer him an extension, there would be a good chance he would stay. He's clearly building something in Marshall. He's proving that it works. You're gonna just let him go and walk down to Southern Miss like it's, a team in conference. That's crazy to me. But I'm going to go with the Raging Cajuns here. And real quick, Coyle, you kind of said it, you were talking about the SEC game. The fact that ESPN, which is broadcasting a majority of these games, or any network, there's no other games in the 3:30 to 8 o'clock window. We have 3 games in prime time. The SEC championship is the only game on at that time. I feel like even last year there was at least one other game on at that time. I could be totally wrong, but it is kind of funny to see the ABC, ESPN's like, you know what, we have this contract with you, SEC, fine, no other games at this time. But that's kind of, I was kind of laughing when I was looking over the schedule. I mean, that's insane to me that there's not even a G5 game on at the same time.
Yeah, I'm going down to that the Big 5 tournament at Wells Fargo, and first game that I'm seeing I think is 4:30. So, a little upsetting to probably miss most of this one, watch it on the phone, but at least I'm not missing the other ones. I'll be able to watch the games at the bar before that, for the SEC at least. But going back to Marshall, Marshall was actually tied with Arizona State, who we talked about as well, best against the spread team in the country this year with a 10-2 ATS record. And they had an average cover margin of 6.3 points per game. Marshall also a perfect 4-0 against the spread as an underdog this year. And they were 2-2 straight up as an underdog, with both those losses being the power school teams in Virginia Tech and Ohio State. These 2 teams didn't meet up in the regular season. I think that's something to note with a lot of these conference title matchups being a rematch of earlier in the year. But they both bring Marshall and Louisiana high-powered offenses to the table. This pushes me to the over in this game. One of my favorite plays of the weekend. Marshall had the 39th highest scoring offense at 31.9 points per game this year, and Louisiana at 15th in the country with 35.6 points per game. I think we see a shootout, and I'm going to go with the dogs of the Thundering Herd. I think we're going to see a couple outright upsets this weekend. I feel like we're bound to. You're not going to have all the favorites, win in all 9 games. So I'm going to go with Marshall in the upset in this one. I really like the spread, at least, and the over. But I'm going to go with an upset here outright. And Marshall 38, Louisiana 34. Marshall plus 5.5, over 56.5. All right, 2 games left to get to. Big Ten, Penn State 11-1 versus Oregon 12-0. 8 o'clock on CBS. Oregon minus 3.5, over under 49.5. And we'll go to the seeding talk real quick with this one, Joe. Just say in game 1, Texas right now is right seated up there at number 2. Say Texas wins that game against Georgia. Penn State wins this game against Oregon. Would you put Texas at number 1, or would you have Penn State go to number 1 because they have arguably the best win in the country over Oregon?
I think that would honestly come down to how both teams play. Let's say both teams win close. I think you go Texas up to 1
with Texas.
Because the one thing with Texas, even though they lost to Georgia, they avenged it in the conference championship game, and I think that would be a big factor. Whereas, Penn State, you saw them lose to Ohio State, which is now 10-2. Oregon catching a loss would go to 5. I think the one thing you got to look at, let's say Oregon does win, there might be a chance that they tick Notre Dame up to 5 and move Penn State down to 6.
Mm-hmm.
I think that would be a little crazy personally. I think, once again, I'm a big believer in you shouldn't be punished for making it to your conference championship game. Unless, if Oregon were to go out and win 42-14, different story. Okay, then you bump them down a spot. But if Penn State loses close, I don't think you can bump them down to 6 and have Notre Dame go up to 5. But I do think, kind of going back to the game here a little bit, I think Oregon is going to win this game 21-17. I'm taking the cover to 3.5. I'm going to take the under in this game as well. I just think Oregon has shown they're the best team in the country. They're the only undefeated team left. They have handled everything that's been thrown at them. They beat Ohio State at home. They survived a tough road test against Wisconsin after they played 9 straight weeks and they had to go on the road. I mean, they've looked pretty, I don't want to say invincible, but they've looked as close as you can get to it. Whereas, Penn State, they've looked good against the teams they've beaten, but against their biggest test, they lost. And you're getting a lot of that this year. And I think you're going to get a lot of this going forward with these new expanded conferences. You're going to have these teams that, the way the schedule breaks, they just didn't have to play nearly as many tough games as some of these other teams did. So I'm going to go Oregon here pretty close, but it also wouldn't shock me if Oregon ran away with this thing.
Yeah, back to just real quick seeding. I think if you have Georgia beat Texas and then Penn State beat Oregon, I think then Penn State would jump up to number 1.
Yes, I agree. I agree.
Number 1 team. And then you'd have probably Oregon 5, Texas 6, Notre Dame 7. I think is probably how it would shake out. But once again, these are hypotheticals having James Franklin and Penn State win a big game. Penn State is 15-16 against the spread as an underdog under James Franklin, and an outrageous 7-24 under Franklin when he's an underdog. 1-15, I believe, in their last 16 games I saw today as well when they're an underdog straight up. So horrific in these spots. You got to give credit to Franklin, though, just for winning the games he's supposed to. Most teams and most fan bases would die for consistent 10-2 seasons or 11-1 seasons and winning all the games you're supposed to. It's just, can he do the big one? And that's going to be the question forever. I think if they win this one, the monkey is off his back. This is a huge game. They probably, at worst, go into the college football playoff as the number 2 seed. Most likely, or a good chance at potentially going to the 1 seed if they win this one. I think the monkey would be off his back. But we'll have to see. And once again, it's a hypothetical of James Franklin winning a big game. But I'll fade him 7 days a week and twice on Sunday. I think that's the expression when he's an underdog. I got caught in the trap when they hosted Ohio State this year, but I'm not going to get burnt again twice in one season with him. I think this game being indoor as well helps out Oregon. They want to play, a track meet type game. They got all these fast dudes. Penn State wants the game, I think, to be uglier, muck it up and whatnot, be an outdoor game and kind of restrict Dylan Gabriel's throwing. I think the playing indoors helps Oregon a lot in this one too. Oregon 27, Penn State 20, Oregon -3.5, under 49.5. All right, final one, Joe. ACC title. Clemson at 9-3 sneaks in after Miami's disappointing loss to Syracuse last week. They'll play 11-1 SMU in their first year in the ACC. They make the title game. 8:00 kick on ABC. SMU -2.5. Over under 55.5. Winner of this one will be one of the top 4 seeds and get a bye representing the ACC most likely. The loser, if Clemson's a loser, obviously they're out. If SMU loses, it's between them and Bama for most likely for the last spot in the field. So do you think SMU wins? And if you think Clemson wins, would you have SMU or Alabama in, Joe?
So I am actually going with Clemson here to win the game. I really hope I'm wrong. Coyle, like you earlier, you have a 12-1 ticket on UNLV to make the playoff. I placed it at the end of September before SMU played Louisville. I'm sitting on SMU at 12-1 to win the ACC. So I'm definitely going to hedge out a little bit, put a little bit of money on Clemson straight up in this game. It's just, and you can't kill Dabo. It's insane. Clemson, has a chance to win this game. I think they would be the 12 seed. I think they would be the lowest, of all the champs if they were to do it. I'm going to go Clemson +2.5. I'm going to go with the under 55.5. I don't like the fact that I'm riding with Cade Klubnik here. This is an SMU team that has been fantastic, but kind of like I was saying earlier with Penn State, SMU didn't have to play Miami. They obviously did not have to play Clemson, and I don't think they played Syracuse either. The other top teams in your conference you got to avoid. I know you went undefeated in the ACC. I'm not taking that away from you, and I know you lost a close game to BYU, who's in the top 25. But it's kind of, interesting. Like SMU has obliterated, kind of like Indiana has obliterated the teams they're supposed to beat. But this is going to be the best team they play this season. I think it's going to be interesting. And you're playing this game in Charlotte. It's going to be a pro Clemson crowd. I think it'll be interesting to see how SMU handles this game. I think if they lose, I would put them in personally. I think the committee will put Bama in because, once again, I've been saying I think it's wrong if you punish SMU for losing. And once again, if they get blown out, different story. Bama should go in. Yeah. But I think ultimately I would put SMU in as the 11 or the 12, I guess, because if Clemson wins, that'd be crazy to put SMU still ahead of them. But I would have SMU as the last team in over Alabama.
Yeah, I think at the end of the day, if it comes down to a debate, they're probably going to put Alabama in. Once again, just because it's Alabama and it's a television product, and that'll be probably more appealing, like a Alabama going to South Bend for a first round game. That would probably be a record breaker in terms of views. But yeah, that would be a fun one. But I do agree with you. Like in the case of SMU, obviously benefits from playing in this game and winning it. But also, like, Alabama's sitting on the couch right now at home watching this game. Like, they're literally the only reason that they can potentially make it as of the state of the playoff right now is if SMU loses. Like, that's really their only chance. Yeah. And Alabama doesn't even have to win themselves. And Alabama has 2 more losses, and potentially it might potentially only be 1 more loss than SMU. But still, SMU played 1 more game. So a little bit of a flaw in the system there. I'm sure the first year of the playoff, this is something that'll get figured out, ironed out as we go on. But I'm going to go with SMU to win. We're not going to speak into existence that there will be a world that features the Clemson Tigers and Dabo Swinney in this year's college football playoff. Keeping it simple, give me SMU to the playoff, earn a bye along the way. I'll go SMU 34, Clemson 27, SMU -2.5 and over 55.5. All right, we'll wrap it up with our lock of the week and dog of the day. We touched on all the games this week, so I went with a little bit of a different angle for my lock of the week, just not a straight play. I'm going to go with the Oregon-Tulane moneyline parlay, +130. Talked about how James Franklin is terrible in the big games against ranked teams when he's an underdog. So I like Oregon in that one, and I like Tulane and their history against defending the triple option. So plus 130 payout. That one starts tomorrow night with an 8 o'clock kickoff. So Friday, Saturday parlay there for you for my lock of the week.
Yeah, I'm going to go with the Army Tulane under 47.5. I was saying how much I like that. This is a play, Coyle, kind of like your score indicated. Even if Tulane puts up a lot of points, I don't see Army scoring more than like 21. I think they're going to try to slow the game down and keep it low scoring. So I am going to go with the under there as my lock of the week.
And dog of the day, I'm going to go with Marshall, plus 5.5. Talked about how they were 10-2 against the spread this year. They were 4-0 against the spread as an underdog, and they were 2-2 straight up as an underdog, with those 2 losses being to an ACC school in Virginia Tech and a Big Ten school in Ohio State. I think Marshall is a live dog in this one, but I'll definitely take them with the points there at plus 5.5.
I'm going to go with Georgia plus 2.5. I mean, if you're going to give me the dogs as a dog, I'm going to take them every time, especially in Atlanta. I think Georgia is going to win this game, and I'm going to take them plus 2.5 as my dog.
All right. Well, that'll wrap it up for Conference Title Show 2024 edition. Pretty wild that we are already here, but next week we'll be breaking out some college basketball coverage, and then back the next week as we get to preview the first round of the 12-team playoff. But as always, everyone, thank you for tuning in. Please like, subscribe, enjoy the games this weekend, win your bets, and we will talk some college hoops next week, and then looking forward to covering that first round and the first 4 matchups there in the college football playoff.